With us today, we have Roberto Hernandez Wesche from Esports Mania. Hopefully I said that right, Roberto.
Yeah.
Bubba Gaeddert from Varsity Esports. Glad to have you here. Bismarck Saenz Arch. Is that right? Is that right?
Arce.
Arce. Okay. Sorry about that. From Anahuac Esports. We have Marcus Blockchain Howard with several companies, but I'm going to say Game Credits. Is that all right? Or
Game Credits most recently, yeah. Yeah, I'm advisor for Game Credits.
Excellent. Jacinto Quesnel from Tecnológico de Monterrey. Jason Kirby from Walmart Gaming. All right. This is an awesome lineup. Several of you I have been following, connected with for a while. Really glad to have you guys here. Let's get this thing moving. So esports and education. Also, by the way, my name's Jason Shuster, and I'm representing BizzTalk. I'm glad to be here, and hopefully I'm going to do very little talking because these experts need their chance to talk and share with us their knowledge and expertise. Esports and education tied together really tightly, and increasingly we hear more and more talk about education within esports being important. My opening question from everybody here, take maybe 2 minutes. What is esports and education to you? I want to start with Marcus and just kind of go down the line, and just 2 minutes, esports and education.
Sure. So for me, esports and education is two pieces. One is, how do you educate people who like esports and gaming that there are more opportunities in esports than just competitive play and live streaming, right? There's 88 different, I think I shared an image with you, 88 different career opportunities in STEAM between broadcast and writing and production in that space. So teaching kids about that and helping them achieve those goals so they can live their passion inside of their professional career. And the other part of esports and education is educating people about esports. And when I say people, I mean more specifically like parents, schools, and businesses. There's still a bit of a stigma, negative stigma, I guess stigmas are negative, but stigma attached to gaming being not necessarily productive or good for society, but that's not the case, as we all know. So teaching parents in that community of non-gamers why gaming and esports is valuable and how to get their kids into that space and all the benefits it creates for them.
Excellent. Awesome. Thanks for that, Marcus. Whoever wants to take it next, no particular order. Roberto, you're already unmuted. How about you? And then we'll go to Bismarck after that.
Sure. Yeah, well, for me, it goes around the same that was saying Marcus. It's a whole ecosystem, to be honest. Nowadays, it's something that it has taken so much relevance in the institutions. At least here in Mexico, it's something quite new, but at the same time with very high impact. So for us, as Esports Mania, we're kind of like the bridge between this type of organizations, gamers, and even companies that are just self-aware, that want to understand where people stand between their education and esports. Because it's not like before where people used to think, okay, esports and gaming is not something that is going to retribute or generate anything out of it, right? But now it's a very big industry that everyone is very self-aware of. And we have to educate and be very aware that this is something that is not just a game, right? Like we are all here, we are aware of that. But at the same time, the companies that and the institutions that are kind of jumping in, they need to understand that it's something that they can build careers on, that players are starting from very early stages, and they need to educate themselves on how they can grow their career paths, not only in gaming and pro players, but also having a self-career for maybe business, communications, marketing. There are many other paths they can go into the esports side.
Excellent. Thank you, Roberto. Appreciate that. Bismarck, how about you?
Well, I think I'm really agree with Marcus in a lot of things. I think esports and education is in first place educate people about esports, but I think you need to form new people that was specialists in esports. You need to form new people that know how to make the things in esports and how to make that all happens. So you need to form people that have the knowledge, the necessary knowledge to make the things happen. That's esports and education for me. Just add to all that the Marcus say.
Excellent. Thank you, Bismarck. Jacinto, you want to keep going? Keep it going.
Yeah.
By the way, I think you win the background award out of everybody. Sorry, guys. His background is just it's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. It's just I think it's a natural thing to happen. Esports somehow, humanity has played games even since before we were called humans. I mean, all mammals play games, and the thing we do as humans is, as soon as we have a technology at hand, we play with it. I mean, the cars were invented and people started playing with cars. I mean, racing and everything is built around that industry. So when the computer industry started, it was natural for us to start playing with it and to make a sport out of it. It's only natural and it's part of human nature. So as well as with other sports, universities, education should be a space, a space for that to flourish somehow, because it's very meaningful for us as humans to play sports. Actually, competitive team sports are exclusive of humans and have been played since before history. I mean, I think it was in the Paleolithic that we started playing as teams, as competitive teams. So esports are right there. I mean, so somehow esports are something new, but they are also something very ancient that's built into our human nature. And obviously universities in their universal nature should be a space for esports to flourish. So that's basically it for me.
Love it. I love it. Great example. Bubba, you got yourself unmuted. Just keep it going, and then we'll finish off with Jason, and then we'll go into our first topic.
Great. Yeah, I think esports education, it's really about providing a pipeline for students. Students is really the focus here. I mean, anywhere from 3 to 30-year-olds. And I think providing as much opportunity as possible is important. And I think esports does that. We see that here in the States. We see that with 3,000 high schools and lots of middle schools engaging, teachers engaging through curriculum and STEM leadership. You know, giving for us as a charity, we're a nonprofit. We want to support as many low-income areas with access to internet and STEM learning and esport clubs as possible. We know that, you know, 97% of kids play video games. So why not support them by meeting them where they are and giving them belonging and giving them team building opportunities and community and friend groups and, you know, all the soft skills that are brought on with a coach or with a teacher that can go beyond just them, you know, like Marcus said, with those stigmas that, you know, gamers as a world, we perpetuate them to stay in the basement and drink Red Bull and eat Doritos, and let's get them out and engaged in kind of an atmosphere, a safe atmosphere with students and other students and teachers. So that's what I think esports and education is. Fantastic. Appreciate that, Bubba. Jason, how about you?
I do got to make one quick clarification for you, Jason. I'm no longer with Walmart. I'm with High School Esports League.
Okay. I apologize for that.
To be a little more relevant to the conversation.
A lot more relevant to the conversation. That's fantastic.
Exactly. What esports is to us is a lot of what's already been said here. It's giving kids opportunities to choose to engage through something they're already passionate about and already doing. Getting them out of the basement, out of their bedrooms, off the toxic open internet and into a classroom with adult supervision, with their peers, working towards a common goal, and having fun. At the end of the day, whether they pursue careers in STEM or in the gaming industry, or they go out and be pro gamers, that's all great. But what it really means is just giving kids a reason to come to school and be excited about coming to school. Which always leads to better grades, better performance and attendance. And if gaming is the means to bring in typically the unengaged or the at-risk students, then I think schools should be investing heavily into it.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I love how similar yet varied all of your responses were. We're going to get some really interesting perspectives today. I'm really excited about it. Well, let's move into our first main topic, and that is STEM education. So when it comes to STEM education, what are the real benefits of esports initiatives at schools, and how could they be structured to be most effective? No particular order, just kind of whoever feels like jumping at it, get us started, and then we'll just kind of we'll kind of do our best to take turns. Let's try to keep responses 2 to 3 minutes so we can get to everybody and we keep it within the hour.
I'll throw it out.
Awesome.
I'll throw it out. We're
absolutely get us going.
Yeah, I think we love being one of the only esports STEM accredited organizations because we get to focus on educating students through college and career readiness through the lens of esports. We do get to partner with Jason and the High School Esports League to provide opportunities for students all across the country. Really, we both partner with a teacher and a principal that created the only curriculum, actually the only free textbook curriculum for esports in the world. It's called Gaming Concepts, and it's for high school students, and actually been downloaded on Microsoft Education over 100,000 times in 40 different countries. You can actually go to Microsoft Educator. Anybody on the chat right now can go and download it for free, and it's STEM accredited. And that the big important issue with that is it's all about college and career readiness through the lens of esports. Yeah, the kids are playing games in the program or the after school class, or actually in credit class, or they are doing it in middle schools, or they're actually taking curriculum out of that those pieces out and putting it into their normal class structure. So we believe that this opportunity to get kids in organized play in school and then use curriculum and then move on to competitive play through partners like High School Esports League, those are the real true pathways for students with STEM education to then go to college, even if it's not for gaming, but it's for anything. And even all of the STEM education opportunities around colleges and careers that are around the large events or pro events, there's camera operators and everything else that are involved in putting on events. So that's what we believe in. We want to support it and give everybody access.
Fantastic. Appreciate that, Bubba.
I agree with Bubba.
Let's go, Marcus, and then Bismarck.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say I agree with Bubba about the importance of using video games and esports to get people into STEM. My brother and I personally, we got Super Mario Brothers 3 for Christmas when we were 6. And in the 9th grade, we were programming our first indie game on the TI-83 Plus graphing calculator. So had we not gotten into video games, we would not have made the connection between games or apps, and apps are made with code, which is one of the reasons why last summer we partnered with Junior Achievement of Tampa Bay to create they had a STEM camp. We augmented their camp with a game development course where we used video games to teach kids to make games, which not only taught them how to write code, because you need code to build apps, but it also taught them to be small business owners, and independent game studios are small businesses. So 100% with what Bubba said, it's important that we have this funnel, if you will, or these resources, this network that can create these opportunities for kids to see that there are professional careers inside of this space.
Absolutely. Solid, Marcus. Appreciate that. That's cool. I love you even had the Super Mario 3 ready to go. I love it, man. I think that might be the first use of a prop during one of these things. So I'll remember that.
School.
It's old school. Bismarck, I saw you had unmuted yourself. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, well, in Mexico doesn't exist a lot of opportunities in sports in the education. Okay, Anahuac Sports and Tech de Monterrey are the beginners in all this. So I think we have 3 important things to keep in mind to know what is the way to make this happen. And the first one is the education. We need to have a subject. Well, in Anahuac, we have a subject that form people to know about marketing, about communities, about how to be a manager, how to be a broadcast, etc. Okay. The second one is to make tournaments inside of the university and with another universities, because this one make the opportunity to have the third one, that is make a community. If you have a community and a strong community in your university, and the people start to see to another people playing video games and competitive video games, they will start to see it like something normal. In a lot of universities, you have the bad stigma that the persons that play video games are bad persons, are lazy persons. Okay, and if you have a community that see that like something normal, and the rest of the community in the university start to support that idea, you will have better opportunities to grow up like a professional when you go out of the university and you have the knowledge necessary to be a professional. So I think that three subjects are the more important in the education inside of a university.
Excellent. Appreciate that, Bismarck. Jacinto, Jason, one of you guys want to keep it going?
I'll keep it going. I think.
All right, perfect.
I wouldn't like to lose perspective here. There's also something that a lot of us build into STEM, that's the A of arts. I think sports are not only good for STEM education, but also arts education, because it's entangled, deeply entangled at the game's inner nature. Somehow games on themselves are a product of technology. So technological proficiency is a natural build on gamers somehow. But also there are maybe, I'm not sure if there are an art form, even though I'm an artist, but they have this sensitivity. They have this aesthetic experience built into themselves. So they also build a lot of that sensitivity into the player. So I think they are also important for arts and humanities and a lot of other stuff. So I think they are very well-rounded somehow. It's not just scientific methodology. It's not only computer proficiency. As I was saying, it's also arts proficiency somehow. Like having this and media sensitivity as well. Somehow gamers or esports players get more familiar with that kind of stuff and can start, I guess, getting into the rabbit hole of arts and humanities from an esports environment. So I think it's very well-rounded. It's very interesting that way. And I think that's one of the things that put esports apart from other sports in a university environment, because there are not many sports that are also art forms. I mean, there's competitive ice skating, and there are another few examples, but there are only a few sports that are also an art form somehow, or that have this aesthetic experience built in. So it's very interesting that esports have both sides of stuff, of these things. They somehow encourage the use of both sides of the brain. That's a very, very, very important thing to do on this 21st century, I guess. That not creativity and building that into students somehow. It's not only it's not only the left side of the brain, it's also the right side of the brain. And we have both things on esports. So that's very important about this.
I love that. Both sides of the brain. Thanks, Jacinto. Roberto, let's go to you because you're unmuted, and then we'll finish off with Jason, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
Sure. Yeah, I think Bismarck and Jacinto described it very well. Well, they are the experts in the end here in Mexico. Their universities are participating quite well on the theme, but at the same time, I think it depends more on the model, like education model, where the university is basing their players on. Like for instance, if it's a business school, of course, this has to do with a program that it's going to build managers or businessmen that are focused on doing the esports side of things, which is one of the main things that is going on, right? It's a huge business opportunity. It's a growing industry. But at the same time, I love how Jacinto described it. We have many other professions. For instance, we have a pro player. She's a medic, and she's always asking, well, I have to take some of my study time for playing esports. I love both things, but how can I mix them? And in the end, it's actually very possible. It's something that here in Mexico is not quite developed yet, but in some other places there is. In the US, it's quite developed already. There are many universities at least in the West Coast, that they have a lot of interested on building this type of STEM programs that have all type of education programs that could be built around esports, and also a core career path, like let's say programmers, medics, even psychologists. But of course, the business side of things is quite the one that right now matches the most in some sort of ways. And what I think it's cool is that esports players that give themselves a chance to go into this type of programs, they will be able to keep going with their professional path as players, but at the same time, they're going to build a career out of it, which in the end, you never know. They might not even end as pro players, right? But they could have another career path within esports that really matters.
I like that. And we're actually gonna talk a little bit more about careers, like, you know, specifically for professionals here in a little bit. So I want to come back around to that. Jason, how about you? Finish us off on STEM education and programs here.
Yeah, there's already been so many amazing things said from everyone here. There's not much more that I can add outside of just you know, the element of digital citizenship, you know, being forefront in the conversation of how to, you know, one, protect yourself, how to communicate with others, how to present yourself, how to hold yourself accountable online, and how to have interactions virtually like we are forced to do in these circumstances now. I think it's something that's incredibly valuable, and it's never really been a discussion in a lot of ways. Something that's always baffled me in the US is how we don't really teach like financial education to students, like how to actually manage your own money. So this is a unique opportunity with esports, teaching digital citizenship, a very important thing that I'm sure most parents don't even teach their kids, that they're getting this type of education and experience online, or not online, but in the classroom from their teachers is an amazing opportunity.
Awesome. Excellent. Appreciate all of that. Fantastic answers, great perspectives. Really, really love that. So the next topic that I want to move into, and by the way, before you do this, the chat has been blowing up. I love it. I love how we're having solid discussion in the chat, as well as fantastic answers from our panelists. Let's keep that going. The next topic is actually something that I'm really excited to dive into. I really want to hear some of the perspectives on this, but it's about access to devices, access to internet. How can we as an industry work on getting access to devices and high-speed internet to low-income families and individuals?
I can speak on that.
It's actually a pretty big challenge.
You know, it's actually been pretty successful in pockets here in the States. You know, we've got partners that are doing stuff in California, Atlanta. You know, if you saw Jack Dorsey from Twitter gave a bunch of devices to kids in some schools in California. We've got some partners in LA who did some fundraising for students in low income areas there. Then I think really we've got different organizations like Human IT who kind of refurbish computers and send those out. We raised some money with them this year during the COVID-19. Really, COVID-19 has obviously accelerated a lot of that and really shown a light on all that access issue. I mean, when we look at it, really 50 million Americans have no access to internet. And out of 300 and some odd million people in the United States, that's a lot. And when COVID-19 is over, 50 million Americans will have no access to internet. So I think for us, that's obviously what we focus on, is just raising dollars to give access. I mean, we know $1,000 donation to our charity will support a student for 1 year with high-speed internet access, and we're able to provide that. So that along with devices are huge cry for help. I just was on a call with my I have 3 boys, and they were talking about the device needs for the school district here, and was about 58% free and reduced lunch students here, so low income, families, single parents and stuff like that. And devices to get learning at home is not available. So they're working with different partners and fundraisers to just bring that access to those kids and have at least an iPad of some sort to be able to do learning at home because of COVID, but also if we don't go back to school in the fall because of COVID. But really, it's all been there. It's just put a light on this issue that devices and internet access is an issue, and we're here to support that. So please donate.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I agree. COVID really has shone a light on a lot of infrastructure issues and issues like this, and just really made it visible. It was already there, but like you said, now it's like, wow, now we can see it. It's right there in our face. Bismarck, we'll go ahead and keep this going. I saw you unmute.
Yeah, well, I think that it's really hard to find a way to help all that people. I'm agreeing with Bubba that the most important here is the non-governmental organizations that help them, okay? But we like participants in esports had a lot of power, like movement creators. You know, we have streamers, we have content creators, we can make tournaments, and we can help them and help that organizations to have more money from brands and from people, okay, and have more donations. So I think that one of the most important things that we can do is just have something to make content, make streaming, make tournaments, make, I don't know, it exists a lot of things that we can make in esports, okay? And the another thing that we can do is to help individuals. I think that we, like esports, esports organization, have the opportunity to help individuals in the world, okay? For example, help here in Anáhuac University, we have 3 students that have 100% of discount in their payment every month, because they are good players of esports. We have 1 player in the Smash, 1 player in FIFA, and 1 player in League of Legends, and they are studying because they are good in esports. And that's one form to help to a person that don't have the facility to pay a lot of money for education, and no, he can have a good education like the other guys in the network, okay? And he don't need to pay because he's a good esport player.
Excellent. Okay. Jacinto, let's keep it going.
I like to, well, as well as agreeing with what Bismarck said, like we really have to build this infrastructure in universities in Mexico, but there's also a lot of field for growth here still in Latin America. I mean, I don't see much awareness, a generalized awareness on esports and all around universities here in Latin America as a whole. And but with this COVID thing, there's been rising awareness about the importance of esports. For example, here in Mexico, we now have pro soccer football players playing FIFA on the prime hours where soccer was originally televised. So I think we as universities have to listen and pay a lot of attention to what's happening right now as we speak, and we can have a lot of growth around esports inside of our universities. I mean, we already have started esports programs, but there's a lot of things still to do, and what's happening right now, I think, will propel that and can help actually leveling up the field for a lot of people who don't have access to, I mean, good internet or good computers at home. But university infrastructure usually has that. So I mean, if we can build around these sports the same way we build around, for example, American football here in Mexican universities or other sports here in Mexican universities. We can level up that field for esports players as well. I mean, all that infrastructure, scholarships, I mean, Bismarck already commented on that. That can help a lot. We also have in Mexico a very important public university, UNAM. I think access, I mean, as long as the universities start paying attention to what's happening right now, I think we're in a very good position to start leveling up the field and actually help these talents to gain access to all of this infrastructure. But also people who's outside of the university who maybe don't have access or are in an economical or bad situation, economically bad situation, can be helped by this conscience somehow. I think this conscience around the importance of having this infrastructure as home, as a leveling field can also somehow spread along the whole of society. So maybe having good internet or having a computer at home right now is as important as having running water or having electricity at home. And having that happen inside of universities can help getting that awareness across society somehow.
Okay, excellent. So focus on the universities. I like that. Good work. Who wants to keep us going? Roberto, Jason, Marcus? All right, Marcus, keep it going.
Yeah, I think Jacinto made several great points. You know, one about the university and the role that it should play in the larger community. And I can't speak for everywhere in the world, but at least here in the U.S., you know, public universities are funded by tax dollars or partially funded by tax dollars. And when I went to school, which is now over 10 years ago, I remember seeing people from the local school, the local community, come and use the library on campus, right? So if you can use the library, if there's an account you can get to use the computers there, potentially there's a guest internet account you can use so that now you have internet access from the campus. And I believe in Tennessee now they're making moves to make internet access in certain pockets a public utility as well. But I think the biggest opportunity here is mobile gaming. There's a stigma attached to mobile gaming, just like there's a stigma attached to esports. But if you think about it, you know, 2/3 of all people in the world have a mobile device. So if we can improve the experience around mobile esports, people might not necessarily have to have expensive computing rigs, right? Or even gaming consoles, which are cheaper than, you know, a $3,000 or $4,000 rig, but still several $100s. So that improves the accessibility of the device, and then leverage that same device for esports to deliver the education. Because again, they already have that. Now you're not necessarily relying on Wi-Fi. You can leverage, you know, the data network. So those are some opportunities there. Michelle made a great point about Mexico, so I want to thank her for bringing that up. But I think, and I said to her, just as much as it is a massive problem, it's also a massive opportunity.
I like that. Great perspective, especially on the mobile front. Roberto, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Marcus, you nailed it. To be honest, like I totally agree. For instance, there's this organization in Latam that it's called Emerge. It's a nonprofit organization that is being funded by the UN and the NBA actually. And basically what they're doing there is that not only on esports, but they're helping all around stuff, helping people even understand how sports evolve around the world, giving opportunities to little kids to understand, to show their abilities. And for instance, that they're pushing a lot on the esports side of things, because first off, it's technology driven, as we said before. But on the second side, as you were saying, Bubba, like in Latin America, it's no coincidence that mobile esports is a big thing, because it's mostly what people have access to. So games like, for instance, Free Fire of G Arena that can be played in mostly any device that's currently a smart device, let's say, that gives opportunity to a lot of people that only by bringing them high-speed internet and this sort of devices, they could start participating. And organizations like ours want to identify this type of talent and kind of like bring them to universities like Anáhuac or Tec of Monterrey to show them that there's actually a career path that they can build even from a low income situation like it's happening in a lot of places in Latin America.
Excellent. Appreciate that. Jason, how about you?
Again, just phenomenal contributions from everyone else. I think from our side, we are now exploring more, hosting more competitions for mobile games. We did a test with Teamfight Tactics, which can be played on any device and mobile devices as well. And it was really popular. We saw people that you would not normally see play games, like some of the teachers and educators and some of our sponsors even participated in a TFT match just because they could. And so that's what's interesting, and how something that we want to kind of explore to kind of lower the barrier to access and make it more accessible for more students, more teachers, more organizations to be able to play, and looking and exploring more competitive mobile games that create still an enhanced experience and required commitment and practice and whatnot, but being able to be played from any device, whether it be a tablet, a phone, and giving that opportunity for people to participate with, regardless of the means in which they have.
Excellent. Appreciate that, Jason. And actually, Jason, I'm going to have you start us off on the very next topic, because I think that your perspective over at High School Esports League is going to be solid for this. But we're going to talk about careers. So right now we have a culture where we and again, maybe not necessarily this group here, but I'm just going to say we as a worldwide culture, we have no problem encouraging kids that are in school or that have a talent or whatever to pursue becoming a doctor or a lawyer or a firefighter or a police officer or a veterinarian or whatever it might be. But when it comes to esports, not so much, right? I mean, there's not very few people actually encourage their kids, that whether they're still in high school or young adults, to really, dig in and pursue that esports career. So my question to the panel is, how can we encourage players and help them focus better on their esports careers, and maybe in the process enable better opportunities in the industry? Jason, I want you to start us out.
Yeah, so one, when you look at the industry as a whole, there's more than just being the player. There's from coaches, support staff, there's events, AV, audiovisual talents, there's technical, there's the game development, there's game design, there's consulting, there's service. There's just so many different career paths. And with a booming industry that is, when I got into the gaming industry maybe like 5 years ago, it was like 80 something billion, and now where it's like 160 billion this year. It's crazy in terms of this growth. Hundreds of thousands of jobs being created. So usually what I've kind of come to understand, what we do here, is we're just trying to expose kids to these opportunities, and the parents. The parents don't know this. They don't know they're paying careers. They just think kids play video games and that's it. It's like, well, there's kids making 6-figure salaries right out of high school or right out of college, competing at the highest level for, being players. But then there's all these supporting careers, from marketing to everything I listed before, that open up doors for kids. And I think something we're exploring and trying to set up is, encouraging schools to basically invite, their college, kind of their local colleges to come in and kind of share their stories from a collegiate perspective and pursuing scholarships. But then also, looking at pros and having like a day in the life of a pro kind of experience where kids get to learn, okay, what does a pro's career look like? Is that a life I want? Is it not a life I want? But then also exposing them to the supporting staff, the people that make the events come to life. And just, getting kids to be exposed to those types of career opportunities really kind of paves us, gives them the option to really say, ooh, I want that. I want to pursue that. Because otherwise, if they don't know it, then their only option is, I become a pro or I don't. And that's not the path that it's reality. There's so many options, and they just need to be exposed.
I agree with that. I think a lot more parents would be a little bit more open if they saw things like, the kind of salaries that video editors are getting these days, and how much video needs to be edited around esports. Pretty huge. Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Who wants to keep it going?
Yeah, I'll just throw out, echoing what Jacinto was saying earlier about arts, the game design is game design is musicians and artists, and that's a very, really important part of what's happening in the careers opportunities. Even indie games, and there's so many indie games out there, and it's really just a really great opportunity for people to develop those skills. But I'd say going back to even what we've all kind of talked about, Marcus alluded to earlier, is literacy, and literacy is huge for us erasing the stigmas and perpetuating things that we talk about and we see in gaming culture. Toxicity is also really huge. You know, just like, you know, there's female gamers who don't even want to let people know that they're female gamers when they play in groups because they have fear of being harassed. And like, we've got to change these things. So literacy for parents, for students, for educators, for politicians, for that matter. A lot of people saying loud things isn't always right. So we've got to break down a lot of barriers and provide these opportunities. And I mean, we know even in the United States, there's 36,000 high schools that are charter free or public, and we only know 3,000 of them have esport clubs. So there's a lot of room for that to grow, and there's no ceiling on the industry. But you know, when we look at esports as a whole, early adoption is almost over. You've got to get into it right now and be a part of it and help shape it, because it's up to all of us to shape this industry. And if we aren't doing it, we're too late.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, Bubba. Marcus, how about you?
If I could add to that, Jason and Bubba made some great points, especially what Bubba said around, you know, indie game developers. Before we got into doing business consulting, the first 6 or 7 years of our previous company was indie game search engine. So we worked with game developers around the world, including some in Latin America. And what we've discovered is that in almost every major market, even some minor markets, there are independent game developers. The people who have most likely day jobs, who build their own passion projects on nights and weekends. I think there's an opportunity to introduce those developers into the schools and the communities where they live, so that kids can see that this is something that's viable, that's possible. And I think there's also an effort that needs to be made for parents to help them associate what's happening here with what's happening with professional sports, right? They don't mind their students going and doing, you know, hours of workout and morning practice and, you know, weekend games and, you know, all the rec leagues. This is the exact same thing. Todd Harris, who runs Skillshot Media in Atlanta, once made the parallel that, you know, you would never pull your son or daughter off the basketball court in the middle of a game, but if it's dinner time, you can't just go tell them to unplug because it's an online game. It doesn't stop because you decided that they need to stop playing. So there needs to be a balance there for sure. You know, you can't be playing all the time, and obviously screen time is an issue, but they need to be willing to understand and build a schedule that works for everyone so that they can support their children's future success.
I love that. That's a fantastic example too of just, you know, you wouldn't pull your kid right out in the middle of the game. Now, my dad might have, depending on the situation. But also, you know, kind of interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but you know, the longevity of the athlete in esports is a lot more than the longevity of the athlete in, let's say, something like football, American football, maybe soccer a little bit longer, right? You know, European football, but certainly that's an issue as well. Who wants to keep us going here, and then we'll round this off, and then we'll move into our last topic about physical and mental health.
Well, I would also like to add, because everyone has so many good points, but I think we also have to see how society is built around esports somehow. So there's a lot of connections there, and well, as Jason said at the very beginning, a path on esports, even if it's, you know, somehow not pro or not very advanced, a very advanced player that we're talking about, has access to a lot of other people, friendship that's built around the sports. Also, the audience builds around the esports phenomenon, and there's a lot of friendship and connections made there in the audience. So having a good esports program can build, can do a lot for the university community or the community as a whole, and move forward with a lot of industries. I would actually dare to say anything. Any industry can benefit from having this kind of thing happening. So that's basically it. I mean, obviously, the people who comment on the sports, the people who write about the sports are also there, and I wouldn't like to think of them as a separate thing. I mean, everything is integrated, and these people, it's actually learning to write about stuff from a critical viewpoint, or to comment about stuff in a critical viewpoint. And it does a lot for identity, for community identity. So that's also something we build when we have a good esports program, and we're building everything around that. So I wouldn't like to keep that out somehow. We are also speaking about everything, the whole phenomenon.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's go to Roberto and then Bismarck. Roberto had unmuted just a second before, and then Bismarck, I'll let you finish this off, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, no, I think it all ends up on the, building a career path that is healthy for both the university or the education institution and the player as well, because sometimes we have to, of course, offer them the possibility to end up there. Like I was talking with Igor Rubio, which is like the main program director for Anáhuac Esports, and we were building or ideating a way where some of amateur players could build up their career and end up on a university path with the scholarships and things like this. But at the same time, of course, we both have, as organizations, we need the compromise of the players to really get them going. Like we're not going to ask them to be pro players eventually. Of course, we would like to, but not everyone is going to end up there, right? So we can only expect from them to be self-aware that they have a big compromise with the university. They're building a career. They're holding the brand of the university. They're building a community around it, and they can work towards bigger things here. And it's something we want to kind of like build here in Mexico. In other parts of the world, like we know that in the US, there are already scholarships for big universities around esports. But here in Mexico, it's something very disruptive that we're just starting to build. We're starting to kind of like convince the stakeholders that could drive this type of things. But we really need this kind of balance and health program with both the players and the institutions that are going to participate in them,
Absolutely, absolutely. Fantastic. Bismarck, go ahead and round us out on this topic, and then we'll move on to the final topic.
Well, I was saying that if you want to form new players, it's a long way. First step, you need to watch them when they are young. So in Anáhuac Esports, we have a Prepa League that is a really big league in all Mexico, especially for high school players. So we need to see them when they are in the high school. Okay. No, I know that you are good players and you're in the high school. Okay, I can give you an scholarship and take that players to my university, like in the American football in USA. Okay. And when they are in my university, I have 4 years to form them like humans. Okay, to give them like a career and to make them a good players, a really good players. If they are good in some moment, well, here in Anáhuac, we have an LVP team that is Infinity Academy. So if one of my players in the university is really good, I can give them to Anáhuac, to Infinity Academy, and he's now a professional gaming in LVP. And if he's really good, he can go to Infinity in the LLA. So I think it's a long way. It's really hard, but we can form new talent with all the support and infrastructure and the infrastructure that Anáhuac gave us, like university. So if we have the opportunity to form a lot of players, or not a lot, but to form new players and new talent, we have the responsibility to form better humans in that players, because they will need to know that, okay, you have a sports career, okay? you need to make it good, but when it's finished, you need a degree. You need something to do after that, because if not, you will work in a Burger King or something like that, and it's not the better idea, you know? So we need to form that people in a lot of different ways, but it's our responsibility to form that well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to be conscious of everyone's time. We're at 6 minutes to the hour. Is everybody okay with maybe going 10 minutes past the hour? Everybody good with that? Okay.
No problem.
If that's okay, we'll move into the last topic. If not, if anybody needs to hop off at the hour, let me know, and I'll try to let you go first. But let's go ahead and give it a shot. So the very last one, big topic in esports. Okay, physical and mental health. So how can we as an industry, as individual organizations, how can we ensure physical and mental health, and how can we reverse some of the stigmas around, the gamer, right? Because obviously if you look at most of the pro teams, not a lot of 400-pound guys from their mom's basement, right? We got some serious athletes in there. I mean, they look good, right? I mean, but how do we get that out to the mainstream? And I know that Jason needs to drop off here in a minute, so I'm going to let Jason go first, and then we'll round this off, but we'll try to keep it just at max 10 minutes past the hour. All right.
There's definitely that stigma. We get a lot of athletic directors kind of like, well, it's not a sport because they're not physically moving, they're just moving their fingers. And that's like, it's a lot more than that if that's the only definition for a sport. But, we're partnering with different organizations to produce health and wellness curriculum and activities and guidelines for schools to implement with their students. From as simple as stand up between games, do some stretches, do some exercises to kind of make it, kind of give yourself that space and that distance. Also kind of correct your back. Some of the chairs at these schools are not the best. These kids are playing in, so we're working with different health and wellness organizations to provide that curriculum to the teachers, because a lot of teachers just have no idea what they're getting themselves into. They have passionate students that want to do this, and they just want to enable them, and we're trying to give them as much guidance and handholding and curriculum as we can, so that they have a plan, they have a strategy that helps the students' overall well-being, and that also includes not just their ability to compete, but their ability to stay healthy and mentally active, and not strain themselves, not strain their eyes or anything like that, to make it so they can compete at their best level, but also not be exhausted or tired from sitting from an 8-hour nonstop gaming session, which is not something that we encourage in any way, shape, or form. Getting that space, stepping away from the computer, doing your stretches, maybe going for a walk or a quick jog to kind of stimulate the blood flow, get things going, loosen your head a little bit, is something that's really important to the curriculum that we're passing down to our teachers when they sign up.
Awesome, appreciate that. And Jason, thank you for all of your contribution today. I know you got to hop off. Hopefully we'll have you back again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much. Take care. All right, let's keep it going. Physical and mental health discussion. Who wants to keep it going?
I'd like to I mean, as what happens here in Latin America, but I think it's a global issue. Sadly, it might be a generational issue somehow, because people who didn't grow up playing video games maybe don't really understand the physical stress around being a pro somehow, and the effort it takes to actually be a good player. So maybe a way around this is making these people play the game somehow, and getting involved as much as possible, not only as teachers or coaches from afar. We need these people to actually get involved more and play more games. I mean, it could be as easy as that somehow, but it's making people play the games and actually understand on themselves what it means to be confronted on this environment, and somehow we could start building around this, because maybe I'm one of the oldest people on the table somehow, but those of us who played esports as little kids somehow, on my time I was playing arcade tournaments, and we had to go to this place where a lot of arcades were. But those of us who played esports as youngsters understand much better this phenomenon. But we can do that with the people around us. I mean, just invite the other teachers, the other university managers to play with us. Maybe on their free time, maybe it could be relaxed stuff. But the second they get to play the games, I think they can understand a lot more about their nature. And well, this is happening. I think this should be a strategy in every university somehow, and education as a general. For example, here we have this structure that has everything built around it. You know, in the university we have this thing called life that has sports, leadership, culture, but somehow esports are transversal to all those three things. But people have a really hard time understanding that until they actually play the games, and they say, oh, now I get it. It was so easy. The second they play the games, it gets very, 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 very simple for them to understand. And from afar, it can be very complex and difficult and hard to swallow somehow. So I think that's it. That's a good strategy to break this generational barrier or this thing about people who have never played the games, because those are the people building on the stigma, and that's the easy way, I guess.
Absolutely, love that. Fantastic thoughts, Jacinto. Who wants to keep us going? Bismarck?
Yeah. Well, Carlos Ocelote said in one interview in the Riot Games documental that play video games all day to be a professional player is like have a hammer hitting your head every day, you know, like a little hammer, you know. It's not dangerous to have one hit, but if it's hitting every day and every day and every day and every day, they will be very dangerous. So the professional players have a lot of problems with the mentality. I said a lot of times in my work in LLA and LVP, and they have problems because they need to be stressed all the day. Okay, they play League of Legends 10 or 12 hours every day, and after that, they turn off their computer, they go to dinner, they talk about League of Legends with their partners, and they go to sleep and think in League of Legends and in the different kinds of plays that they can do in League of Legends. So it's a real stressing life, you know. We understand that in Esports, and we say, okay, we need to help our players and all our ecosystem to be less stressed. So number one, the teams and the organization in esports need psychologists. Need sports psychologists, okay? Specialists that know how to help them, because I can't, okay? I can tell him, okay, every will be okay. But I'm not a specialist. I need a specialist. Okay? All the teams need it. And in the second way, a lot of studies in diverse universities say that when you are good physically, you are better in the mental. So you need to have care about your health. You need to have care about what you eat. Okay, you need to have care about how much time you make exercise out of the computer, because yeah, the esports has a sport, but the esports are not exercise. So you need to go out and run. So I think one important thing is to contract in all the teams one physical preparator and one psychologist. So I think that two things are really important. And have that in the universities too.
Love that. Love that. Psychologist and a trainer. I like those, both of those. And I think I've heard a couple people say that they need a nutritionist as well. So just a health team on standby. I love it. Roberto, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it all ends up or lands in the work-life balance type of thing that it's always encouraged in every company. And it's the same thing for esports, right? Like we understand that that's their career path and they have to be playing or practicing all the time so they get better and eventually get to a better spot. But at the same time, they have to be self-aware that if they keep going at the same rate and they don't give themselves pauses and, breathe, think about other things, call their families, etc., they're going to end up having, like Bismarck was saying, like a little hammer that's going to end up winding in something very terrible eventually. And also, like Jacinto was saying, I remember the good old times where I used to play like Smash Bros with some friends of mine, and I was sweating like a pig and thinking, oh, if I did this every day, I would be in great shape, right? So there's also a bit of physical activity on it. You have to stretch your legs, you have to go walk around, have some healthy food to go with. But at the same time, it's nothing that they are not able to actually balance within their daily routine. So I think it's quite achievable, but it's something that it has to be instructed to them, because as players, sometimes they might lose their time on the computer, and at the end, it's not good for them, and we all understand that. But it's something quite achievable, and it's something that people eventually are seeing with the sports teams. Like, people are very fit, they are showing that they eat very well. So it's something that I think it's going to slowly change on around the people mindset of the old, like fat kid that used to play behind the computer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bubba, you want to keep us going on this, and then Marcus, you'll finish us off, and then we'll actually be done.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we can think about in mental health and wellness really is just surrounding the industry with experts that already do this stuff, right? So, like, on our board, we've got for our charity, we've got a Twitch student, director Garvey, that just is a massive supporter of things when it comes to health and wellness and education. People like Gamer Doc. She's a doctor who is in New York right now, working 60 hours a week, helping with COVID, but she goes around to schools and talks to kids about mental health and wellness. And, I think it's finding partners like that. Like, we're members of National Alliance for Mental Illness, Rise Above the Disorder, Games and Online Harassment Hotline. Like, those are partners that, instead of us all trying to just like, hey, we should create a program, like, find these partners that are doing it well and engage them in esports and engage them in education, because they're probably doing it in other industries. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, just get them involved. And so mental health is huge for us. It's one of our big initiatives at the foundation, because when it comes to toxicity and mental health, it's like I talked about with female gamers, or when we talk about health and wellness, for sure, about those students that need to be able to understand what 14 hours of screen time really does to their bodies, especially when they're all at home and no school is happening right now. 14 hours a day is easier because they don't have the restrictions of being at school. And it's easy for the parents, who are now both working at home, taking Zoom calls, and, hey, I need an electronic babysitter to take over for a little while because mom and dad are having a Zoom call and we just can't entertain you like because we're usually both at work and you're at school. So there's a lot of issue with that right now. So I just think this is a huge thing, and this is exactly what our foundation is all about.
I love it, man. I'm so guilty of that screen time nanny. It's bad. It's bad. Got to get better at it. Thank you for that, Marcus. Go ahead and finish this off, and then we'll go ahead and round off the round table.
All right, we've had some excellent suggestions here from everybody here, from the strategies and the importance of having staff in health and wellness. I think there's a missed opportunity from the game developer perspective. I spoke to somebody at the DreamHack event last year in November. He's actually from the Mamba Sports Academy in LA. And his role was to help esports professionals understand the importance of physical sports and how it makes them better at esports. So we would always recommend, if they're playing like Overwatch, right? Let's say it's like a 10-minute match with a 1-minute gap in between rounds. And that, I'm just estimating the time, right? But what we would recommend they do is try to do 10 push-ups in that 60-second gap between rounds. So hypothetically, if you're playing, let's say, a modest 2 hours a day, you're getting over 100 push-ups in one day. And, you know, I don't do 100 push-ups in a day. So that I could see how that would add value to my life, and I wouldn't really even think consciously about it because I'm just doing this in between this dead space, right? And then I had a colleague here in Tampa Bay who was saying, his name's Alex Bamberg, he works with RareDrop. He was saying that there's a mouse manufacturer that's getting ready to launch a product where it can like measure your heart rate through the mouse because your hand's on the mouse. And I thought it would be really cool if you could create some kind of connection between your physical activity in between matches and some kind of minor boost or benefit at the beginning of a game, right? For example, I play this game, it's Disney Cars 2 because I have 2 toddlers. But at the beginning of every round, there's like a charge section where there's like 3 seconds before the round begins. And if you hit the button as quickly as possible, you can get a minor boost. Imagine if you could do some physical activity in between rounds that gave you just a tiny boost that's just enough to incentivize you to do exercise in between rounds. I think that would be tremendous for the space.
I love that. I love that. All fantastic ideas, and I'm certainly not an expert here, but I think, you know, just from my perspective, before coming into gaming and tech, I worked in the health and wellness industry for a while, and I think that the health and wellness industry is missing a huge opportunity with gamers. Just, most of the new innovations and services out there that are making healthy eating easier, and nutrition companies, they're really still targeting the gym rats and the fitness people, but they're missing out on this whole demographic of gamers that not only are good candidates, but they need it. It's actually really important for them. So anybody that's listening to this, if you're in the health and wellness industry, pick up on the opportunity and make it happen. So anyways, everybody, that's all we have for today. This was an awesome panel. I loved having all of you here. Jason, before he left, Marcus, Roberto, Bismarck, Bubba, Jacinto, you guys are awesome. You guys are big people in the space. Your perspectives were fantastic. Thank you for being here. Would love to have all of you back again at another BizTech event in the future. Hopefully we can make it happen. So thank you so much for your time, for your comments. And once again, this webinar, as well as this whole event, was sponsored by Boa Compra, making it easier for international companies to make local payment solutions easier. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. See you again soon.
Thank you.
See you. Thank you.
It was nice to meet all of you.
Thank
Seriously.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.